do.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, lover. How are you?
I'm pretty well too, thank you. It's kind of crusty outside today.
Yeah.
Before we get started, I want to read something because I am a reader and a follower and a seeker. So I'm often going to share content with you from other people that I think is just worthy of being recognized on our site because it influences something that we do. So this is from a guy named Michael Roderick, whose company is called Small Pond Enterprises. And let me just say, I encourage you to get his everyday email because he's got great content. I've taken a ton of things from it. So I'm not going to read you this whole email post, but I'll tell you the backstory. He and his wife and their 2 children did the Hadrian's Wall walk in England one year, which is, you know, Hadrian's Wall is the Roman wall, and so they followed it as far as they could. And he talks about the fact that a lot of it is through fields and mud and muck and excrement, and you know, you're stopping at little towns, pubs and bed and breakfasts, but it's a long, arduous walk. And then he related it to a conversation he had with another entrepreneur. And this is the piece that I want to read to you. As entrepreneurs, we get to make this choice every day. Do we walk in the mud or do we walk on the road? Do we try to outrun everyone on the path most people are on, or do we find a different, less crowded path? When things are not moving the way we'd like them to, we always have a choice. We don't have to walk in the mud. We don't have to do anything. We get to choose our path, and that often defines what we do. Maybe it's time to take off those boots. And I love that because I feel like that's what we are not trying to do, it's what we're doing. We've chosen this path that is not particularly well trod. There are not a lot of couples talking about this work, laying out their vulnerable, scary parts for any and all to read and judge. So I just really wanted to lift that up today because I liked it a lot and appreciate the idea of getting to choose. We get to choose. You got to choose to become sober.
Yeah.
So I loved that. So thanks, Mike Roderick, and Small Pond Enterprises. I really encourage you to look it up. Okay, today is the 3rd promise. And the promise is, we will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. So what do you want to talk about today, Dr. Mary?
Well, we went out to a fantastic, very socially distanced, wonderful dinner party at a couple of friends of ours last night, and we actually talked about this. Mm-hmm. Not shutting the door on the past. Why? How you reach rock bottom? That point where your only option is to, well, to use a quote from a film: "Get busy dying or get busy living." Or get busy.
Good job, Shawshank.
That's your bottom out point. That's your past. From that point on, you build from it. Now, what we were talking about last night is since I've going to rehab and going to AA, I hear these heart-wrenching stories of how people got to this room for AA, and you know they're very heartbreaking. That's your past. And what was interesting for me, I don't have a story like that. I think I just got fed up and gave up. There wasn't one horrendously traumatizing thing that started me down the road of alcoholism. I mean, you don't wake up one morning and say, hey, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to start drinking heavily. Something happens to you, and it could happen to you over a period of time, and then at some point you try something to help you get through the day. And some people can do that. Some people can have a drink. Some people can go home after a hard shit, or you know, at the weekend just say, right, now I'm going to party. I've worked hard. I'm going to party. An alcoholic can't do that because you don't know when to stop drinking. So reaching that tipping point is your past, and learning from that, whatever you do from that moment on to try and stay sober and living with your disease, or stay out of addiction, depending if it wasn't alcohol that you chose. That's important to remember where this started. So not forgetting the past, don't shut the door on it. It's a learning experience, and everyone has these learning experiences, not just alcoholics. You know, the significant others of alcoholics would also probably sitting there going, what went wrong? And some of them actually start thinking it could be their fault, which is a horrible situation for a human being to put themselves in. You're with someone who has reached a point where they can't cope any other way, and it's not your fault, it's their fault. And it's for the alcoholic or the addict, that's when we do become our most selfish, because we're not doing anything about it.
I like this promise because, again, this is the luxury of the living, or the challenge of the living, is how do you overcome these mistakes? How do you recognize them? How do you move on from them? But how do you never get to a point where you're trying really hard to act like they didn't happen or forget them? I can't.
That's more stressful.
Yeah.
That's denying your past. This is the point. You don't. Well, I wouldn't say embrace. You accept.
Yeah.
How you reached rock bottom, and every moment you remember that, and I think, now I want to get up. I mean, we talked about this before. That's it. You're there. You're in a hole. How do I climb up? And you'll be surprised, actually, how many helping hands you might find along the way to help you get up.
We have a couple in our life who have been to some marriage therapy, not for addiction issues, but the therapist gave them an image that I just think is so beautiful and really speaks to this. So the therapist's conclusion to their challenge was that when one of them falls in the hole of anger or despair or anxiety or whatever that hole is for them, that is so loud in my ear.
Carry on.
The other one, instead of being a helping hand, jumps into the hole too. And so then you've got two people stuck in this hole and they can't help each other out. So the therapist's advice was, if one of you can stay on the ground and reach your hand down to lift the other one up, then you'll be okay, because one of you will always be in the position to help. And it doesn't matter which one of you is on the ground and which one of you is in the hole, as long as one of you stays on the ground. Where I think that gets tricky, addiction or not, is I wasn't in the hole with Maz. Addiction was never my struggle. I don't have a drinking problem. And I say that from a place of truth, not a place of denial.
An important distinction to make there, actually, considering what we're talking about.
And I tried to reach out and be that helping hand, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
And I know if you are watching this as the spouse or the partner or the parent or the child, you've tried too. So maybe some of this can be helpful to you and your partner, but I do want to encourage you to not jump in the hole with the addict, because that will absolutely guarantee nothing gets better. And just to go back to the idea of don't pretend your past isn't your past. Remember that that's true for all of us. There's not a person watching this, there's not a person alive who wouldn't go back and make a different choice.
Absolutely.
But here's the thing. Would I go back and not get pregnant at 22? Absolutely. Absolutely, I would not encourage 22-year-olds to get pregnant.
Mind you, the end result of
But
yours was pretty damn fantastic.
We have a 24-year-old who is the light of our lives because I made a bad decision at 22. So I can't regret that. And I wouldn't change it for the world, because I love that boy.
No, that's a great...
And he's the only way I would have him, is that unfortunate decision I made.
That's a great addition to this. You know, I can only think of bleak examples. That's a fantastically wonderful.
Here's
hopeful
another
one.
good one. Do I wish Maz wouldn't have become an addict? Do I wish we wouldn't have lost all those years? Do I wish that I didn't have the scar tissue of the spouse? 1,000% I wish that. Would we be where we are today as a married couple had we not done that? 1,000% no. So, if you haven't gone through addiction and your marriage is great, bravo. I'm certainly not advocating that everybody's got to hit the bottom before they can recognize
No.
the good. I don't think that's true. But in our case, we are absolutely where we are in this glorious place of togetherness
Yeah.
because of what we went through. And we have both said, and I mean it sincerely, we'd go through it again to get to here. I don't want to. I never want to do it again. But I would do it again if I had to. Because this is so amazing.
It does. I mean, all these promises do actually kind of link up, but you know, don't lock the door on the past nor admit it exists. That goes back to the first one. You know, think about it. You know, the first one is you've got to admit you're powerless over alcohol. That is easy for me to say, even as an alcoholic, but as the alcoholic or the addict, there is some part of your brain that actually knows there's something terribly going wrong with you. Listen to it. A lot of people don't listen to it and then take an alternative way out of their life, which is tragic in itself. So
You
know,
almost did.
yeah.
Yep. So, that's promise 3. I think that's everything today.
I think it is. Have a fantastic day.
Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:30.
Bye.
Bye.